Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome back to Golden Mountain, Golden Meadow. It's a very interesting chapter today we am going to deal with. Probably some of you have already read that, but yet I'm going to read it for you. And this time it's going to be Unit 3, Grade 10 English Language Book, Government English Book of Nepal. Let's begin. It's reporting questions. Reading section says engage yourself. A fable is a short story. A fable is a short story, typically with animals as characters. Secret for you. Animals as character. Actually, these animals depict the character of the human beings. They have hidden some of the characteristics of human beings. They actually mean someone. You may also find these type of characters where when you read the text, you remember some of the people who have similar qualities. So, fable consists of such animals which depict human characters. But it conveys a moral. Now, answer the following questions. It's given in the text as well. Have you heard the fable about the ant and grasshopper? Everybody has, even a small kid. From the very beginning of our course of studies, this story has been heard again and again. Ant, very hardworking. Grasshopper, very extravagant. If yes, tell it to your friends in the classroom sometimes. If not, let's read. I give you one more opportunity to understand this particular text. Have you ever seen or heard about people like the ant, hardworking people like ant, and extravagant, very, very luxurious people? They don't want to do any kind of task. They just stay quiet and enjoy music, enjoy the entire life. If yes, share it with your friends as well in the classroom. Now it's a study time. Let's begin. Here we have the text, the ant and the grasshopper. I could not help thinking of this fable when the other day I saw George Ramsay lunching by himself in a restaurant. Lunching. Lunching by himself in a restaurant. I never saw anyone wear an expression of such deep gloom. He was staring into space. He looked as though the burden of the whole world sat on his shoulders. I was sorry for him. I suspected at once that his unfortunate brother had been causing trouble again. I went up to him and held out my hand. How are you? I asked. I'm not in hilarious spirits, he answered. Is it Tom again? He sighed. Yes, it's Tom again. Why don't you chuck him? You've done everything in the world for him. You must know by now that he's quite hopeless. I suppose every family has a black sheep. Tom had been a sore trial to him for 20 years. He had begun life decently enough. He went into business, married, and had two children. The Ramsays were perfectly respectable people, and there was every reason to suppose that Tom Ramsay would have a useful and honorable career. But one day, without warning, he announced that he didn't like work and that he wasn't suited for marriage. He wanted to enjoy himself. He would listen to no expostulations. Expostulations. Word to be noticed. To be noted down. Expostulations. Expo- Expostulations. He left his wife and his office. He had a little money and he spent 2 happy years in the various capitals of Europe. Rumors of his doings reacted his relations from time to time and they were profoundly shocked. He certainly had a very good time. They shook their heads and asked what would happen when his money was spent. They soon found out he borrowed. He was charming and unscrupulous. Unscrupulous. This is another word to note it down. Unscrupulous. 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 I have never met anyone to whom it was more difficult to refuse a loan. He made a steady income from his friends and he made friends easily. But he always said that the money you spent on necessities was boring. The money that was amusing to spend was the money you spent on luxuries. For this, he depended on his brother George. He did not waste his charm on money, neither on him. George was a serious man and insensible to such enticements. This is another word to note it down: enticement. Enticements. Enticements. George was respectable. Once or twice he fell to Tom's promises of amendments and gave him considerable sums in order that he might make a fresh start. On these, Tom bought a motor car and some very nice jewelry. But when circumstances forced George to realize that his brother would never settle down and he washed his hands of him, Tom, without a qualm, this is another word, qualm, to note down, began to blackmail him. It was not very nice for a respectable lawyer to find his brother shaking cocktails behind the bar of his favorite restaurant, or to see him waiting on the box seat of a taxi outside the club. Tom said that to serve in a bar or to drive a taxi was a perfectly decent occupation. But if George could oblige him with a couple of £100, he didn't mind for the honor of the family giving it up. George paid. Once Tom nearly went to prison. George was terribly upset. He went into the whole discreditable affair. Discreditable. This is another word to note down. Discreditable. Discreditable affair. Really, Tom had gone too far. He had been wild, thoughtless, and selfish, but he had never before done anything dishonest, by which George meant illegal. And if he were prosecuted, he would assuredly, prosecuted, assuredly, these are another words to be copied, be convicted. But you cannot allow your only brother to go to gaol. It's a gaol, probably. It's a jail dungeon on behind the bars. GAOL. The man Tom had cheated, a man called Cronshaw, was vindictive. I guess this is another word to copy. Vindictive. 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 He was determined to take the matter into court. He said Tom was a scoundrel, and should be punished. It cost George an infinite deal of trouble and £500 to settle the affair. I have never seen him in such a rage. RAGs. This is another word to copy down. As when he heard that Tom and Cronshaw had gone off together to Monte Carlo, the moment they cast the check, they spent a happy month there. The source of the text is 65 short stories by William Somerset Maugham. Where we have some exercises to do as well in terms of vocabulary. We have so many vocabularies. Some are the words that you already know. Some of the words that you don't know at all. Some of the words you've heard or seen somewhere, but you exactly don't know the meaning. But some of the words you exactly know the meaning, and it is contextual as well. For example, gloom, 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 decently, unscrupulous, calm, discreditable, convicted, suspected, sure, enticements, blackmail, illegal, vindictive, hilarious, expostulations, amendment, cocktails, prosecuted, scoundrel, chuck, profoundly circumstances descend. Some of words that you do not know, you have to find the words in the dictionary and then read it out. If you know, then you can use them in a sentences and make sentences or make some kind of stories related to this. There are some questions that are followed after this passage. It says, read the text again and answer these questions. Who was the black sheep in Ramses' family? Why? Second question, what was a respectable profession to Tom? Third question, why was George Ramsay staring into the space? Fourth question, why did Tom leave his work and wife? Fourth, that was fourth question, quite terrible question. Fifth question says, how did Tom manage his life when he ran out of money at first? Sixth question, how did Cromsaw and Tom see George? Seventh, what forced George to realize that his brother would never settle down? These were some of the sentences. Now there are some other sentences that comes from the text itself, and they are not in current or in an order. You have to rearrange these statements, and the text is starting from A to I. As far as I know, the answer should be H, B, C, D, G, E, I, A, and F. This is what the order of the sentence is according to text is. There are follow-up activities to work with the pair and similar like describe the similarity between the people that you heard or experienced. And now we come to the grammar section, engaging ourselves. Like the sentences that are given in the examples are, "How are you?" I asked. "I'm not in hilarious spirits," he answered. "Is it Tom again?" He sighed. "Yes, it's Tom again." "Why don't you chuck him? You've done everything in the world for him. You must know by now that he is quite hopeless." These are some of the sentences extracted from the text. Now we have to report these sentences and it's given an example as well. The narrator asked how he was. George replied that he was not in hilarious spirits. The narrator asked if it was Tom again. George answered positively. The narrator advised George to chuck him. He also explained that he had done everything in the world for him. He added that he had to know by then that he was quite hopeless. There are sentences to match in two tables. Okay, in a table with two column A and column B. In between we have a serial number A to D, E, F, A to F, and the sentences are, she said to me, where is Dolman? And you have to find out the answer from the column B and mark A, B, or C, or D, or E, or F. Similarly, she said to me, is he at home? He said to me, how old are you? The head teacher said to me, can you come to school at 10 o'clock? He said to her, where are you from? She says to him, can you please help me tomorrow? Let's find the answer for number A. It's at last. She asked me where Dolma was. Number B says, she said to me, is he at home? Then you have fourth statement. She asked me if he was at home. Third question, that how old are you? It is in second. He asked me how old I was. Fourth question, the head teacher said to me, can you come to school at 10 o'clock? It's there in the third. The head teacher asked me if I could go to school at 10 o'clock. Fifth sentence that is asked, where are you from? He said to her. The answer is on top. First one. He asked her where she was from. Then finally you have the question, can you please help me tomorrow? She says to him. And it's in present form and the answer is in the second last. She requests him to help her the next day. Similarly, we have the sentence like Anupam says, where do you live? Antoine asks is in present tense. Where I live, present tense. There is no change of tense at all because it's in tense, present tense. So answer also should be in the same. Anupam asks me where I am from. Was that in the previous sentence here? Where do you live? So where I live would be the correct answer. Sanjeev says, can you solve the problem? Sanjeev asks if I could solve the problem. Praveen said, does Pramila love me? Praveen asks if loved me because reported verb is said. So present tense changes into past tense. Similarly, Dinesh said to his friends who went to Muktinath for worshipping the god. Dinesh asked his friends who had been to Muktinath for worshipping the god. Very simple. Navraj asked Saraswati, will you visit me in Australia? Navraj told Saraswati if she would visit her, I mean here Navraj is male, so she would visit him in Australia. Similarly, we have Julia said to Pujan, we have got two genders. How is your husband? And Julia asked Pujan, especially Julia inquired Pujan how her husband was. Julia inquired Pujan how her husband was. I think Pujan is of same gender. Okay, the next question is says a stranger said to Asta, what kind of music do you like? A stranger asked Asta, what kind of music you liked? Because present tense do you like changes do you liked because of the reported verb said. Number 8 is Bharatlal said to Firoz, aren't you applying for a grant? Bharatlal asked Firoz, if if you weren't applying for a grant, full stop is the ending of the reporting sentence. And number I, Aritosh said to Durgalal, aren't you in the office? Aritosh asked Durgalal if he wasn't in the office. And finally we have, didn't you pay her? He said. He asked if he asked if she hadn't paid because didn't is changed into past perfect. Didn't is simple past, so it changed into past perfect. Hadn't paid. After had, you have got past participle of main verb her. So finally, we have okay, we have a similar conversation. You to be rate. I think this is the end of our grammar person. We have listening person. We have a speaking person, and you'll be speaking in terms of a direct and indirect speech. That is reporting statement. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much tuning in. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. I'll be seeing you next day at the same time, at the same moment, probably in between 8 and 8:15. Good day, everybody. Good night as well.